Being at Dance Hub SA has been invaluable, and is, being in the space where you're focused, you're having a residency, you come to the same space every day, you have the time in that place, you have the actual studio to be able to step back. Bridget and I have been talking about this for a year, and we physically try things because, that's my way of working, and that's
in the lounge room.
But in the lounge room, and without the perspective, just to actually have, we were just saying last week, having the resources of being on location with a dancer in a space where you're meant to be dancing means that you can work so quickly. And and Dance Hub SA has supported numerous projects of mine over the years, and it means different things to every different project that I'm working on. Bridget and I have collaborated a few times, and I guess we collaborate equally, and the ideas are always shared, and we can always share thoughts on all aspects, but we kind of come to it as though I'm the expert on dance and Bridget's the expert on visual arts. So if that's our default role, I guess. And so what's been really exciting about this one is sort of out of necessity, we had a third body in the space, dancer Kesna Brass, and it meant that actually I could sit more in my regular role of directing from the outside, which is where I'm sort of most comfortable in terms of not being certain of what the work is. And that's been really nice to work in that way. Yeah,
it's certainly been really quick. So we've been in for two weeks, so 2 days on 2 weeks, and we've actually travelled so far in the project. I think because of that, just having a critical Alison being able to have that outside eye and really see things, what's working so quickly, and that's been really great actually. And we haven't worked like that before. We haven't involved another person in our collaboration before.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure lots of people are aware working in that way, where you are performing in your work and you're often even though Bridget is performing in the work as well, so we are still filming things and I'm showing her so that she can have that opinion, but it somehow is just being able to work in real time rather than view the footage and then come back and it's just a lot. It's quicker and it makes it more satisfying, I guess.
Yeah, as Alison was saying, we fall into our roles as dance artist, visual artist. So I've constructed a set of objects for us to work with, and we've been really interested in these kind of peripheral objects that are present in Western traditions of sculpture. So often it's a rock or a log or a weird block that's actually holding up the body, and these objects refer to those things, then they just become objects on par with the body in space. So it's an interesting role. I haven't made a set. I haven't. The objects aren't a set, but they like a theatrical set, not a set of objects. So they enter into a space of theatre as visual art objects, but then they're completely open to being manipulated and changed through whatever process that happens with bodies. Yeah.
I've been making work with objects on stage and off stage and in galleries and theatres for a long time now. I guess the most recent ones have been really looking at, or as I've progressed in my practice, it's been this kind of personal connection to a global theme, I guess, like a feeling of the individual and the global are connected. And I think, so my work is really visual, but it's also got this kind of emotional, humanity in it. And I think the human in the dance is really important to me. So I guess I guess that's what I'm realizing is key. Like I've often talked about objects and performance, and I think that's a way of getting at that, because the inanimate form alongside the human body kind of brings out the humanity.
I work predominantly in sculpture, but I also work across media, so I also work in writing or film or sometimes other types of performance. But yeah, I guess coming from a background with a strong interest in sculpture, so one of the starting points for Alison and I working together is, for example, the sort of theoretical basis of sculpture, so interests in form and volume and weight, and sort of counterpoint in balance. So those things are quite important to my own practice, and I have it's part of my practice that's very abstract and very intuitive, and then I have a part of my practice that deals with space and how people interact with those objects. So in that way, I think there's a lot of parallels in our work. But obviously, I predominantly work in a gallery, and I make an installation that's kind of an invitation to a body to enter, I guess, but it's not intrinsic to the work.
As part of this collaboration, we've explored how human bodies, like we have proprioception, so we can hold ourselves up, we can adjust our balance, and we're constantly active in that. Comparing that with a marble sculpture, for example, in order to have an active pose, there's often these other forms that hold them up. And then so we were bringing these forms in with the human body and then trying to find ways that we can balance with them. So it's sort of like going, well, I have all of these things that can hold me up. What if I add something else that is holding me up, but actually I'm holding it up? So it kind of has become this this interplay between the objects and the people in that way that they actually become more difficult rather than they're often like not an aid, they're a hindrance. And then what if we try and find comfort or rest?
Yeah, the last time we worked together was showing in an exhibition called Versus Rodin, which was at the Art Gallery of South Australia, curated by Lee Robb. And the focus of that exhibition was contemporary artists responding to Rodin's work. And I think for this project, we also started to look at 3 small sculptures by Rodin. So that posture or that shape gets repeated several times during this project. So there's sort of 3 shapes that kind of form the basis for thinking about this, and then travelling the ongoing ideas of propping, of balance, of weight, and people interacting with objects have been throughout our collaborative process dating back to 2010. And those ideas are really sort of strongly held, and I think when we collaborate, we always go back to those linkages. But yeah, coming back from that exhibition in 2017, we began with those very specific poses. So that's what we've been working with, but then travelling from that into broader ideas of comfort and ease and propping. It is very, very different. I think Alison has a strong collaborative process, like anyone who works in performance or dance, and it's really normal. Whereas for me, I'm mainly in my studio, I'm mainly working alone, and if I collaborate with someone, often to manufacture a larger object perhaps, it won't be as permeable to their ideas. It's very much I'm in control of it. Whereas I feel like when Alice and I collaborate, it's a true collaboration. We're making it from scratch together. So we each contribute different aspects to the work, but I feel like, yeah, and it's also on a personal level, it's very challenging for me to perform. So there is that as well. So I am not making objects and then leaving and working like a set designer. I am fully present in the work as a performer as well, which is completely different to my normal practice. If I perform in my normal practice, it's often through words. So yeah, it's not really through movement.
You can probably tell because we sound very similar, but Bridget and I are sisters. And yeah, I was asked recently if we weren't sisters, if we would work together, and it kind of opened up my mind thinking, well, my practice might be completely different because Bridget is 4 years older than me and was studying her undergrad in visual arts when I was still in high school. So my kind of practice as an artist began also being
exposed to that
yeah. Visual art community, and I've connected with a lot of other visual artists through that, but also so it's actually influenced my practice, even just the fact that that we're related and that we work in that way, but we didn't actually work together directly probably for 10 years into that, but yeah we're sisters. We've known each other a long time.
So that actually makes it really easy to communicate, because I think probably one of the challenges if you began a collaboration with someone you didn't know very well is trying to work out exactly what they mean when they say things, whereas we don't really have to elaborately say very much.
And I guess because we both have a kind of intuitive practice, or a lot of decisions are made intuitively, like being able to have a shorthand understanding of what each other mean that we probably don't even notice that we're making intuitive decisions together or alongside each other. So
and we often, it's very rare to disagree. I mean, I think the aesthetic is really similar too. So there's, it's, I think there's a lot of shared language that comes out.
Yeah, my advice to a young artist starting out wanting to be a choreographer in South Australia is see a lot of things, see everyone else's work, experience as many art forms as you can as well. The more you see, the more you know what you like and what you don't like, but also to try not to compare your work straight away to that work, because that's often work that people have been, like the things that you love are things that people have been working on and practice for 10, 20 years. So to stay at things even if you don't like what you're making, to just keep working on it. The only way to get better is really to keep making, and to connect with others in your community, other artists, to do collaborations is a way of learning and setting out the various boundaries in those projects, like if it's a co-direction collaboration like this one, if it's a collaboration with a musician but you're holding the kind of final say. I think there's all these different relationships that I had to kind of learn how to navigate as I was starting through my practice, and just keep doing it. And love lots of young artists to stay in South Australia. I think that's what's been really important about this, having the Dance Hub here. But hopefully we can continue to build our community in that way.